Welcome to the first or the third session on the Prout principles with Rajesh. Today we'll cover principles from 3 till 8, and I would just like to thank Rajesh for all this amazing work he's doing. These sessions are really useful for all of us to understand a little bit more about Prout. So without wanting to take too long, just would like to give the word to Rajesh, and so that we can start the session. Rajesh, you can go.
Namaskar to everyone. And before going for today's session, just have a quick recap of the last two sessions. For in first session, we discussed about is any change desired, is any change is required, or we are simply propagating growth. So on the basis of present economic scenario, the data, the uh, gap between rich and poor, the rising poverty, all these things were discussed, and it was established that the time has come for a change. We have to look beyond the existing system. We should think about something new, and that new is nothing else but progressive utilization theory, that is Prout. In second session, we discussed that Prout is in form of Sanskrit sutras or the principles. There are 16 sutras. Out of these 16 sutras, 1 to 8, they are the social laws of Prout. 9th, 10th, and 11th are the economic principles of the Prout. And the 12th to 16, as we all know, these five principles are the fundamental principles of growth. So we discussed first two sutras or the principles in the second session. That was Varna Pradhanta Chakradharaya. In the flow of social cycle, one class is always dominant. And what are the class? They are the Sudra, means the toiling class, followed by the Kshatriyan era or the Kshatriya age. They are the warrior class. Third one, or the followed by the Vipran era or the Vipran age. They are the intellectual people, intellectual class. And the fourth one is the Vaishyan age, Vaishyan class. That is the class of traders, merchants, or the capitalists. So this was the first sutra, and the second one was Chakra Kendre Sadvipra Chakra Niyantraka. In the nucleus of the social cycle, Sadvipras will control the cycle to liberate all. So Sadvipras, this is a very new concept to the world or the humanity, but we all are familiar with this term. We all are familiar with the concept of Sadvipra. It was broadly discussed in the second session. And this social cycle will be controlled by the Sadvipras. And whenever one class becomes exploitative or the exploiter, the Sudras will wage a war against them. And this war doesn't mean that the brutal fight or something, might be simply the Renaissance or the intellectual awareness can do the desired, the needful. So Sadvipras will lead the masses, lead the society for the change, so the exploitative class should be dethroned and the new class will automatically take place. So these two were discussed. In today's session, we are going to discuss the remaining six sutras or principles of or the social laws of the Prout. So let's begin today's session with the third session with the third principle, that is Shakti Sampaten Chakra Gati Vardhanam Kranti. Evolution is the acceleration of speed of the social cycle by the application of force. In coming sutras, some words will pop up like use of force, use of tremendous force, but it doesn't mean that the propounder of Prout philosophy propagates about the uses of force. He has given the philosophy. These are the probable scenarios, situations which can occur in the social cycle. And when we will discuss, or I will take the examples, it will make things clear that it's not the Prout philosophy's propounder is propagating about the uses of force. Rather, in the social cycle, it is bound to happen, or it is bound to take place. So the third sutra says, evolution is the acceleration of speed of the social cycle by the application of force. And what does it mean? That in the first sutra we discussed that society has a natural flow. It's moving from one class to another class, from Sudran era or the toiling era to the warrior class era, then followed by the Vipran or the intellectual era, then it's the Vaishyan era or the traders or the capitalists. So in this way, it's a natural, normal phenomenon which is going on. It's an ongoing process. But when a situation occurs or demands, people are compelled to use force. In that case, this natural or normal flow of the social cycle will not be disturbed, but the process of change will be accelerated. Suppose if from one era to another era, it was supposed to, it will take some 50 years. But if we are compelled to use the force, might be it will happen in 25 years. The age will change from X to Y into 25 years. In natural process, it was 50 years. And after the use of force, it its speed has been accelerated. The social cycle's speed has been accelerated, and it just took 25 years to from one era to another era. So this is the third sutra says. And what is the basic difference between the natural flow and in this use of force? It's very simple, as I gave the example that in natural flow, it will take the normal natural time which is supposed to be taken. As I said, it might be 100 years or 50 years, but after the use of force, the time span will be minimized. And from X era to, we will move to X era to Y era, the successive era, whichever. If we are in warrior class age, then we will move to the intellectual class age. If we are into the intellectual age, after the use of force, we will move to the traders or the capitalists era. So this is the third sutra says. Fourth one is Tivra Shakti Sampaten Gati Vardhanam Viplava. Revolution is the acceleration of speed of social cycle by the use of tremendous force. So when situation demands, or the situation occurs, or the situation compels, people use tremendous force to uproot or dethrone the exploitative class, the exploiters class. And in natural flow, when the Kshatriya era or the warrior era will be replaced, it will be replaced by the Vipran or the intellectual age. So what is the basic difference between the third sutra and the fourth sutra? Because both says the acceleration of speed of the social cycle by the use of force. So what's the basic difference between both the sutras or the principles? The basic difference between both the principles are the quantum of force. In third one, in the evolution, the force which will be utilized, it will be lesser, it will be minimal. But in the fourth one, which is revolution, in this in the revolution, the quantum of force will be tremendous, might be brutal. And another difference is the time span. In natural flow, it will take its natural time. But when we will use the minimal or the lesser force, the time span will be again more than the revolution part. And in revolution, when we will use the tremendous force or the brutal force, the time span will be more minimized. As I said, natural flow, it will take 50 years. In the uses of force, lesser or minimal, it might take 25 years. And when the use of force is brutal, tremendous, it might can happen in 5 months or the 5 years. So the basic difference between third and fourth, the quantum of force and the time span. So I think it's time for an example to make the things more clear. And it will again establish that this is not the use of force is not the idea of propounder of the Prout philosophy. Rather, it is bound to happen. It is taking place in the social cycle. So let's come back to the 18th century in Europe, in France. It was time for the French Revolution. French Revolution lasted for 10 years, 1789 to 1799. 10 years, 89 to 99. It was a normal process. It was a word is used revolution, but it took 10 years. If we apply the third principle, application of force, might this French Revolution has concluded in 5 years. What the 10 years it has taken, if the force has been utilized, it might have been concluded in 5 years. And if the brutal or tremendous force has been used during the French Revolution, it might have concluded in 5 months, 6 months, or in a year. So this is the application of force. And as I said, in the social cycle, things are bound to happen. It will take place. And if we consider the French Revolution or the era of French Revolution as the era of warrior class, because at that time, France was ruled by King Louis XVI. He was a monarch, he was a dictator, he was exploiter. So this is symbolic to the warrior class era. And after French Revolution, what happened? Democracy took place. The first democratic government took place in France, in Europe. That was the first democratic government. So, and democracy is by and large a representation of the intellectual class. So after the Kshatriya era or the Kshatriya age or the warrior age, French Revolution took place, and it was the France moved from warrior class to the intellectual class. I think it's clear to everyone right now. And if I take an example of this brutal or the tremendous force, again, the epicenter is Europe and America. It's the period of World War II, 1939 to 1945, 6 years, the World War II. And when the World War II came to a sudden stop when on 6th of August 1945, Hiroshima was bombed with the nuclear bombs, and on the 9th of August 1945, Nagasaki was bombed by the nuclear bomb, and the World War II came to a sudden halt. Suddenly it's stopped. So this is the use of the brutal force that stopped the war. And if the then emperor of Japan, that is King Hirohito, is a representation of warrior class, after the World War II, Japan also adopted the democracy, which is the representation of the intellectual era. So with these two examples, we can conclude, or rather we can differentiate between the third sutra and the fourth sutra. And again, I'm saying use of force is not the doctrine of the Prout propounder. In the flow of social cycle, things will take place. Our situation will compel to use the uses of force, minimum force, or the brutal force. Let me take another hypothetical example. Tomorrow, the Russia and Ukraine conflict will complete the 2 months tomorrow. It is started on 24th of February. Today is 59th day. Tomorrow will be the 60th day. So 2 months will be completed for Russia-Ukraine conflict. And it's going on. It's an ongoing process. Mariupol has been captured by Russia. Ukraine is resisting like anything. Even that was not envisioned by the generals of Russia or the Vladimir Putin. But just think, a nuclear bomb either at Kyiv or at Moscow, the conflict will come to an abrupt end. I'm not propagating the use of this nuclear bomb, but I'm just from the World War II, I'm taking a cue and just I'm saying, if either Kyiv is bombarded or the Moscow, it will come to a halt. So the use of force is a situational thing. It's compelled to take place. It is not a doctrine of we people or the Prout propounder. I think it's clear for now, and third and fourth. So now I will move toward the fifth one. Fifth one is Shakti Sampaten Viparit Dharayam Vikranti. What is it? It says that counter evolution is the application of force to turn the social cycle into reverse direction. I'm repeating it. Counter evolution. Third was evolution. Fifth is counter evolution. Counter evolution is the application of force to turn the social cycle into reverse direction or the backward direction. What is it? Suppose in the natural flow or in the normal course of social cycle, it goes from toiling class to warrior class to intellectual class to traders or the capitalist era. But suppose the intellectual class becomes exploiters and the warrior class people lead a revolution against this weapon era, and as per natural flow, society should or the social cycle should move from Vipran era, intellectual era to the Vaishyan era or the trader class. But when the warrior class people took the lead, the flow or the social cycle reversed to the backward from intellectual era to the warrior class era. And here again, the use of force is there. Warrior class people use the force against intellectuals, and they compelled them to dethrone or to uproot, and it was reversed back to the warrior class. But Prout propounder says that it will not last for long. Even if it happens, the Kshatriyan age or the warrior age will be short lived, and as per the natural flow, either the society or the social cycle will move to again to the intellectual era, or as per the natural course, because it was primarily the intellectuals those who were leading the society, they became the exploiters. So as per natural flow, it should go to the traders era or the capitalist era, but it reversed back to the warrior class. So Sri PR Sarkar says that it will short lived, and after a short span of time, this warrior class era will cease to exist. Either it will go to the intellectual class or to the traders class. And again, here the use of force will be minimal or lesser, and as the force will be lesser, it will take a bit more time to reverse the social cycle. Sixth one is तीव्र शक्ति संपातेन विपरीत धारायाम प्रति विप्लव. Fourth one was revolution. Here it's counter revolution. Counter revolution is the application of tremendous force to reverse the social cycle, reverse the social cycle into the reverse direction. Counter revolution is the application of force to turn the social cycle into the reverse direction. The same thing which happened in the fifth one, from the intellectual class, it will reverse back to the preceding class, not to the successive, which is the natural flow. It will reverse back to the preceding age. And here the force will be more lethal, brutal, or the tremendous. And as the force will be maximum or the tremendous, the time span will be lesser than the previous one. But again, Prout propounder says that it will be more short-lived than the counter-revolution, the previous one. If in counter-revolution, suppose from intellectual era, application of force was applied, it went back to the warrior class era, and it lived for 25 years or 50 years. But when this counter revolution will take place, more force will be applied, and rather than for 50 years, it might can lived for 20, 25 years or 15 years, because he categorically says that it will be more short lived than the counter evolution. Again, and the basic difference between both the principles are that the quantum of force in counter evolution, the force will be minimal or the lesser. In the counter revolution, force will be brutal or the tremendous, and the basic difference of that time span. That will take, counter revolution will take more time, but it will short lived. In tremendous force, change will happen in a short span of time, but the era which will come, that also will be short lived. That is not going to last as per its natural flow or natural time frame. So let me give an example, or take me an example. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict is going on, suppose the situation further deteriorates, and as I said, any party compelled to take some more harsh steps. For example, just to establish United States hegemony over world. United States drops a nuclear bomb at Russia. Even it's hypothetical because they are not in a position to start World War III, but it's hypothetical. So what will happen? What will be the chain reaction? The chain reaction will be the share markets across globe will be collapse. It will compel the global share markets, whether it's Dow Jones at United States or the Sensex in India or the Nikkei in Japan or everywhere, the share markets will collapse. And when the share market will collapse, there will be a economic anarchy. So when Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar says the use of force doesn't mean that the physical force only. Even we all can visualize that what will happen after the collapse of the share markets of entire globe. There will be economic crisis, there will be recession, there will be economic anarchy across globe. So after this is also a kind of force, tremendous force, because it will impact every government, it will impact every country, it will impact every individual on planet Earth. So, and after this collapse of share markets, suppose intellectuals came to the rescue. They devise some ideas like we, the Proutists, have an opportunity to show them the path. We, the intellectuals, give them the new way. And in this way, I'm not saying that Prout is going to establish, but I'm just indicating towards the intellectual class. So if the intellectual class guides the governments across globe to control the economy, to revive the economy, to again make it prosperous and flourish. So if the intellectuals are there to guide us, what will happen? Now we are living in the capitalistic era. It will go back to the intellectual era. This is the counter revolution. But if situation compels, even no intellectuals or no new ideas, nothing is there to control this economic anarchy across globe, the warrior class people come forward. They wage a war against the existing politicians, the capitalists. This will lead to a establishment of warrior class. This is revolution. In the same scenario, in the collapse of share markets, if it is guided by, leaded by the intellectual class, it is counter revolution. We will go in reverse direction. But if the warrior class come to the rescue, they take the lead, they take it to come out from this mess. So it is the going to establish the warrior class. So this is revolution. So I hope that it's a bit clear to everyone. Now I'm moving towards the seventh principle, and that is Purna Vartanen Parikranti. The complete rotation of a social cycle of the social cycle is peripheric evolution. As we know, which we discussed in first principle, social cycle has its a natural normal flow, which is from Sudra age of a toiling class, to the Kshatriya age, the age of warrior class, followed by the intellectual era, and after the intellectual era, it is the era of or the age of the Vaishyans or the capitalists or the trader people. And after the extreme exploitation of the capitalist class, other classes' life becomes like a toiling class people. And what is happening? Even the intellectuals are at the mercy of the traders or the capitalists. So after the extreme exploitation in the Vaishyan era, there will be Shudra revolution. This Shudra revolution will be led by the courageous people, those who are not afraid of anything. They will lead the society, they will lead this revolution, which will lead towards from the Vaishyan era to after Vaishyan era, it's a Sudra revolution followed by the warrior class age. So it's a complete rotation from the toiling class to warrior class to intellectuals to the capitalists, then the Sudra revolution, and after the Sudra revolution, it's warrior class. So it's a one complete cycle. This one complete cycle of the social cycle is peripheric evolution. It's clear. And the last social law, eighth principle, is Vachitriyam prakrit dharma samanam na bhavishyati. Diversity is the law of nature. No identical things can ever be happened. There is nothing like two things are similar in everything in terms of electrons, protons, neutrons, and the thought process, in the body language, in the physical structure, color combination, complexions, everything never be identical. There will be some kind of diversity will be there, and this diversity is natural. Making things identical by adopting some scientific methodology like IVF or something, making two things identical or something, that is not natural. Diversity is natural. As we all know, even two atoms are not identical. They vary in protons or something, electrons or something. If there are twins or the triplets, they might physically look alike. Their physical appearance might be same, but their food habits will vary. Their choice of subjects may vary. Their choice of colors will vary. Their choice of movies or the games, that will also vary. So even they born almost on identical time of difference of 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, they look like similar, but they are not similar. So this diversity we have to accept, that the nature produces, and what is nature? That supreme operative principle. It produces not the identical things, but the diverse things. And how this diversity is, we have to accept this diversity. We can't discriminate on the basis of color, complexion, nationality, language, anything. We have to accept that we are part of the same progenitor, we are part of the same family. Even due to the climate conditions, our complexion is different. In Africa, our brothers have a black complexion. In India, we are something called brown. In Europe, people are fair complexion, but that doesn't make a difference. It's a diversity of the climate. So this is natural. This is the eighth law, eighth principle. And here I conclude all the eight principles of the social laws, and I welcome the questions, if any.
This- I have a question. So you mentioned the French Revolution in 1789. Well, I'm not an expert, but you said that
Just one sec. It's not audible. I'm just using earphone. Just give me a second.
okay, sure.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So, like I said, I'm not an expert, but um, you mentioned that the French Revolution took 2 years, from 1789 to 1799, and it would be shorter if the application of tremendous force was there, right? Um, and I think that, from what I know from the French Revolution, it feels like tremendous force was used because, there was so much killing, so much decapitation. They killed the king, etc. So, um, how do you think more force could be utilized in order to reduce the time of the revolution?
Even I'm not an expert, but this tremendous force is very subjective. We can't say that, and even it's very inhuman to justify these things. It was just an example to make things clear. Whenever, as a brutal force, as in 4 years in China, after this, what they call it, cultural revolution, in 4 years, 45 million people were butchered, were killed. So this is brutal force, this is tremendous force, so it's very subjective. I was just trying to convey that if, okay, there was the use of force, but if the quantum of force was more, so it can be concluded in 7 years, 8 years, or 5 years. That I was willing to convey only. I was okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you for answering. Does anybody else have any questions?
Namaskar. Uh, I'm sorry I missed most of because I confused the time. Um, but I came to the seventh principle, actually sixth principle about counter-revolution and revolution. Um, uh, could you maybe clarify? Normally in the terminology, counter-revolution is something, I guess, not progressive. It's going in the opposite direction. But in a case of um, collapse of Vaishyan dominance, and intellectuals having then control and directing the social cycle into that counter-revolutionary stage. What is good about it? What is bad about it? I mean, what makes then that stage bound to end up with another, change of revolution? And is there any benefits of, for example, that we enter Vaishyan's Vipran stage from this stage, or Kshatriyan stage?
As you rightly said, that whenever we are going in reverse direction, this is not progress. That's very true. And even the Prout propounder, he himself says that this period will be short lived. This is this will not exist for long. It's just circumstantial situation, or the circumstances has compelled for going into the reverse direction. But even a period of revolution is never good for anyone, either who are the exploiters or those who has been exploited, because we have to go for a revolution. Revolution means mass uprising, and when ever there is a mass uprising, it happens for the good. But during that period, everyone suffers, everyone has to make sacrifices. So in terms of what you said, what is good or what is bad, good is that the exploiting class, the exploitative class will be dethroned. That is the good part. And the bad part, that during the exploitation, everyone is compelled to suffer. Very few enjoy that period because they have every luxury, they have the power, they have the army or something. So they are least affected people. But the masses, as they are sufferer, as they have been exploited like anything, then they have gone for the mass uprising. So that a worst phase for the masses, except those who are the rulers, whether they are the politically elected people or the monarchs or the emperors. And going reverse into reverse direction is never good. And even Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar says that it will short lived, it will short lived. After the even if we go into the reverse direction to the intellectual era or the Vipran era, either in a very short span of time again, either we will come to the Vaishyan era, and most likely to the warrior age or the Kshatriya age.
I just always imagine, Kshatriyan age as something that is under control of something, force of weapon, military. So if we envisage in the future a Kshatriyan era, do we have any other scenarios apart from military coups, military governments, or something like that? I can't envisage Kshatriyan era without intervention of Sadvipras that would be benevolent or even more benevolent, than, let's say, I mean, every era can deteriorate into exploitation, but the level of exploitation we have today with Vaishyan era seems a bit more comfortable, at least in the West, than, for example, level that would be under military government. I mean, that's just a thought,
Yes, but if we think a bit hypothetical, if as the era of Proutists, the system is governed by the Proutists, because after this Vaishyan era, what I personally feel, that there will be Shudra revolution, and after this Shudra revolution, the entire setup will be changed. And I'm quite optimistic that the rule of neo-humanism will prevail across globe, and the rule of neo-humanism itself denotes or represents the rule of Sadvipras. So there will be benevolent dictators. They might keep army, as Prout says about the world government. No uh, local governments, either in terms of a country, they will keep police for the local law to maintain the local law and order, but the countries will not allow to keep.
Is it just me that stopped hearing Rajesh?
Yeah,
Ah,
there was some technical error. Yeah.
okay.
So where I was. So there will be a world government. There will be not United Nations, the toothless organization. There will be world government, and this world government will have the military power or the army to avoid the conflict between the countries or the nations. So I'm quite optimistic that when there will be the rule of the benevolent people, when there will be the rule of neo-humanistic people, those who believe in Yama and Niyama, I think they will least bother about the power, post, and when there is no interest for the power and the post, there are least chances for coup and other military expeditions, or what is happening in Ukraine right now. I'm not blaming any either Ukraine or the Russia, but I'm just what is going on. I'm just mentioning that part only. So these things will not happen, and that will be controlled by the world government. So the and as I said that after this Vaishyan era, I strongly believe that it is going for the Shudra revolution, and after this Shudra revolution, things will be drastically changed. there will be benevolent dictators. And warrior class doesn't mean that they will equipped with the nuclear bombs and this tanks and fighter jets and everything. That doesn't mean. It is an inherent quality of being courageous.
We don't hear you
People,
again.
exploitative people or the exploiters or the ruling class. This is an inherent characteristic it denotes.
Acha, this Rajesh Singh ji, this is Deepak Hojai from India only.
Yeah, namaskar.
Namaskar, Dadaji, namaskar. Acha, I just want to ask you, okay, this who are the Shudras you are referring to?
Everyone, those who are just living for their survival. And this is not
Okay,
me
okay,
who is saying. This has been
okay,
said by the Prout propounder, the toiling class, the sufferer class, which has been
yes.
compelled for the surviving only.
Okay, Dadaji, very nice, very nice.
Yeah,
I'm very thankful to Prout's Universal. Such a
me too.
yeah, very important classes on these Shutras, which Prout's Universal has organized. Very nice, very. And Rajesh Singh, I think Rajesh Singh is the best person to. I'm very much this one. I like the class very much.
It's kind grace of
Yes,
Baba
yes.
only, and the credit goes to Dada Mahapragyananji and Brother Maheshwara.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm just a
Absolutely, absolutely,
fortunate enough being part of the team.
absolutely.
And
I
they
think
believed
Dadaji.
and they believed in me that I'm able to deliver the things that is happened due to the grace of Baba only.
Very well, Dadaji. You have explained very simple and very this one in simple language. You have explained all these sutras.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments?
Maybe just one sub question, because you mentioned that Shudra revolution. So, what do you think? What are the ways how that Shudra revolution can express? Is it different rebellions? Could it be without blood? Could it be would need to be happening in different parts of the world, or at least in various countries at the same time? I mean, it's all hypothetical, but
But the now it's a world, it's a globe, but somewhere we are internally or somewhere we are connected to each other. Every country has some interest in other countries, or now it's not a too unfamiliar field for the nations. We are somewhere interlinked, interconnected to everyone. And I think there will be a chain reaction. If it starts from anywhere in world, it will affect every country. And as I said, that this collapse of share market probably will have that ripple effect across globe, and every country which are flourishing right now, they don't have the problem of that kind of unemployment, poverty, or the basic requirements are fulfilled. They are in a bit a comfortable position. For example, we can say the United States, we can take the example of the Scandinavian countries. They are socially well off, economically well off. But when the share market will collapse, which happened in 1929 in America, that was the first Great Depression. So every country is economically interlinked with another country. If China is going to collapse, the rest of world will automatically collapse. If America is going to collapse, everyone has the effect. Every country will be affected. So my idea is, even the inputs, even the ideas, even to just for this mass awareness or awakening, intellectual people will be there. But usually The revolution is led by the courageous people. As I said, they are not people with arms, ammunition, fighter jets. It's the inherent quality of courage. It's the inherent quality. They are not afraid of dying. They are not afraid of death. They just want, or they just have a willingness for a change. They are, they have a potential, or they have a temperament to fight with anyone, even the ruling class. They are not afraid with their tanks or anything. So that is the reason Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar says that after Shudra revolution, the society will not go to the Shudra age, because we are already, other than the Vaishyan people, rest are living like the Sudras. So after this Sudra revolution, as the courageous people has led this Sudra revolution, we will go to the Kshatriya era, Kshatriya age.
Thank you.
I also have a question.
Ah,
Yeah, so according, or let's say under the Prout system, the Sadvipras would facilitate the progress between one era to another. So right now, many would say, and I personally believe, that we are on the threshold of changing from one era to another. Nevertheless, we don't have Sadvipras right now to facilitate the process. As Proutists, what do you think would be our role, even if we are not Sadvipras, if we don't have that kind of influence? What do you think we should do to facilitate this process? What can we do as Proutists right now?
Sadvipra is not a crash course or 2, 3 years, 4 years course. Sadvipra are the human beings with all the four qualities of the Sudra, warrior class, intellectual, and the Vaishyan. What is with the Sudra quality? Sudra quality means you have a potential or tendency to serve others with the physical labor. If you have the courage, you can fight against the exploitation or injustice. This is the characteristic of a warrior class. You have the intellect. You know how to handle the situation or what you have to do in a given situation. It's your intellect. So you have the intellectual potentials. And if circumstances compel, you can make arrangements for your survival and for other survival. This is the characteristics of the a capitalist or the entrepreneurs. Okay, so all four qualities comprising a person is called Sadvipra, but many places, many thing has been said by Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. They should be mentally adept in Yama and Niyama. They should strictly follow the 16 points. And as I said, this is not any course of 2, 3, 4 years. It's a gradual process from imperfection to perfection, from a normal human being to a spiritual warrior. So it will take some time, and many things happen during a process. We all are leading a comfortable life. I'm just taking my this session from my home. I'm in my home, my turf, there is no problem. But when some kind of situation occurs, and if I'm not leading the society from the front, it means that I'm a simply an intellectual person. I don't have a potential to wage a war against the exploitation or injustice. It means I'm incapable for being Sadvipra. But other than this, in these intellectual sessions, I'm ready to sacrifice myself for the sake of society, for the cause of society. Then it's the society which will recognize others as Sadvipras. So it's a gradual process, it's an ongoing process. And I believe that in process, we all have the potential of becoming Sadvipra. And again, as there are no fixed parameters, it's again a subjective thing. And I believe we all, those who are attending the session, not attending the session, but have a willingness, but have a thought or imagination for a change in society, society without exploitation or the injustice, some degree of sadvipra is living inside us. We have just to inflame that, the potential of being a sadvipras. We have to, and it will be recognized by the society only. We can't proclaim ourselves that we are the sadvipras. That's my basic idea. That's my idea.
Right. Thank you. So just to expand a little bit more, so what do you think we should be doing in order to facilitate the progress or the process?
Again, I'm going back to the French Revolution. There was a period of Renaissance, and after that, French Revolution took place. So it's a period of Renaissance for us. We should propagate Prout. We should propagate neo-humanism as maximum as possible. And when people are aware, when people are awakened, the situation will automatically arise for a mass uprising, and that mass uprising is a time to prepare ourselves for the leadership role. I'm not saying that we are here to rule. Leadership role doesn't mean that we have a willingness, we are desiring or dreaming for becoming the ruler of this country or that country. No, this leadership quality, that when situation is there right now, through the social media, even in the first week of May, I'm going to, most likely going to Nepal for 3 days program. Again, after 15th of May, uh, some 500 kilometers away from my hometown, there is a 3 or 4 days training and public programs are lined up. So in this way, right now, it's a time for awareness and awakening. And when situation will be there, we will be at the forefront. And this is my conviction. As we are not ready, as we are not capable to take the mantle, this Vaishyan era is lasting. The moment he has the conviction that no, my children are ready now to take the leadership, my children are ready to take the responsibility of the society, that day situation will automatically there, and we will be at the forefront. And I'm quite optimistic about it.
Thank you, Rajesh. Um, are there any more questions or comments? If not, I think we can conclude here, right? Yeah.
So,
So, yeah, thank you everyone for coming.
yes.
It was a lovely session. Um, and yeah, just to remind everyone that this program was organized by Proutist Universal, and we have different um, different programs and different things that we are doing. So the Prout convention will happen on the from the 20th to the 24th, sorry, from the 19th to the 24th of July. So you are all welcome to attend. It will be in Denmark, but also online, so everybody around the world can attend. We'll also record it for those that cannot make it due to time difference. We also have a website where we publish content regularly, very interesting articles, and if you're interested in contributing, please contact me. So the website is prout.info, and we have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, all of those, and we also have a Telegram account. So in all of those channels we publish very interesting and I feel important content, so please check it out. And we also have a YouTube channel. We are working on publishing videos regularly. We also have newsletter. So we have many ways of contacting people, and if you're interested in getting to know them, just on the website you'll see all of them basically. So yeah, thank you very much again for coming. I hope you have a beautiful weekend and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Bye. Thank you.